Hi everyone, this is a public forum of NATO Summit and I'm here, I'm Маші Єфросиніної here in the YouTube studio saying hello to my guest Ірен Феллін, Secretary General Special Representative for Women, Peace and Security. Wow, it sounds very good. So, Ірен, let's start with the messages and narratives that you brought to this summit. What are them?
Thank you, Maria, for inviting me, and thank you for this space. The message I brought to the summit this year is about leadership, because leadership matters, and it's about women's leadership.
Yeah.
This morning, I convened a group of women ministers of foreign affairs and defense, together with representatives from civil society. Mm-hmm. I did the same last year, but focusing only on political leadership. This year, I wanted to have something more expanded to show that leadership comes in different ways, and it's only if we collectively work to promote the power of women that we can make a difference.
So, I understand what you mean, but I cannot ask. Is the power of women still needs to be promoted?
Indeed, it needs, because
the whole world is talking about that.
We are, but when it comes to decision making and the way in which we take the decision, the gender perspective is still needed. We need to have different perspective. We need to bring the different vision, and this is only if we do this, men and women together, that we will have a full vision of the needs, and here we are talking especially in security and international relations, because the population is different. So we know that conflict affects women and men in a different way, and it's not possible to develop the right solutions if all voices are not heard. Sure,
but could you describe the role of women in international security today?
Sure, it's. We can see different possibilities. As I was mentioning earlier, we can see women in politics as ministers of foreign affairs and defense, but we can see women in the military forces. And if you look at Ukraine, for example, we know how the war has changed the dynamics within the country. And now Ukraine has a very high number of women actively participating in the armed forces.
40,000, I think.
Yes.
Approximately,
yeah. There are 60,000 between civilians and the militaries, 42,000 I think military, and then 5,000 are active on the front line, and 1,000 really, not only in the field, but really in the front line. It's changing the dynamics, but this is also showing how things are getting different, how women are really participating actively in promoting the defense of the country, but then it's also sometimes not reflected in the decision-making processes. So what we need when I talk about leadership, it's really show, unfortunately, we still need to talk about this, that this space needs to be still promoted and protected to make sure that all voices are heard.
I thought about a photo of yesterday, a general photo where all the heads of the allies were gathering together to make a photo, and I again mentioned that there are 3 or 2 women among them.
5, I think.
5? Wow. Do you, Ірен, imagine any day that on this photo there will be 50% of women and 50% of men?
One day it will happen, but there is still a long way to go. At the end of the day, what I learned in my experience, even before becoming the Secretary General Special Representative, I was working a lot with women in peace mediation and negotiation. I tried to see how to increase the number of the women at the peace tables. And this is something that we already talk when we look at Ukraine and the possible, path towards peace, and this is one of the subjects that comes very often, how to make sure that women will sit at the table. And what I have learned that you cannot fix the problem during the war, you need to address the problem before. Women need to participate in all spheres of life and political life during peacetime. And from the bottom up, at every level in all fields. And this is the way in which then you will have women represented at the highest level. We are not there yet. We see many ministers now. Almost 1/3 of the ministers of the alliance now, if you combine foreign affairs and defense, are women. There are 19 right now. It's a big number. We can see the progress, but this doesn't happen at the level of head of state or government.
What should happen to change this?
I think it's to see more women in politics, as I said, growing up, you know.
And but generally, people of each country is not very good to women in politics.
You know something?
This is like a circle. They don't elect women.
It's a question of power sharing. It's a responsibility sharing, if we want to say, put in a positive way, but then at the end of the day is sharing power. If women detain the power, have detained the power historically, the patriarchal structure of the society is the one creating the barrier to women, you know, to be part of this restricted circle. Things are slowly changing, but you know, when you detain the power and you have to give some of this power away to see another person coming. Sometimes I think that it's not against women, but there is this fact that we are not part of the magic circle, you know. Women meet, do not meet with men when they sit, you know, on the chess club, at the golf club.
This is stereotype, this is stigma, which is not broken.
That's the problem. This is why also showing that there is an alternative, that women come together. What I wanted to show today is really that women do exist at high level, and we are part of the conversation about international security. But then what we want is to see all, you know, men and women coming together in a gender balance. It will happen, I'm sure. We need to accelerate the process a little bit. I think that the time is now. We cannot wait 100 more years to see this change happening.
Yeah, I have a not personal question, but like Ukrainian woman who is very involved in the life of women of Ukraine, of all the Ukrainian women. I really want to hear your point of view. So, Ukraine is a pretty young country. We have that 30 years of independence, and it's very progressive and modern, and was very, very frequent going to big European results, and I never felt like discrimination, sexism, and before war I could pretty sure tell you that of course we have problem, but we are okay with men. Now we have 500 days of war, and our men, they awakened from a deep dream. Like my husband, he was a very, very successful businessman. He was in politics. He was okay with his life, and he put off everything and he went to the front line now to to defend me and our family and my country. And when I'm thinking and seeing this million men defending our country, I try to imagine the situation after the victory of Ukraine. Will not it push back this masculine and very, very masculine world of today, Ukraine, where we have I think 40,000 women in the front line and 1 million of men there. Do we go back to that life when women are just under their powerful men who just brought the victory and defended their country? Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, I do, very much, and I think it's a very interesting point you raised.
I'm thinking of this because my husband is changing.
Yeah, I think you are all changing in one way or the other. You know, war historically have provided a big change, has worked as an accelerator in the two ways, also for women. Men historically were going to the front line, leaving the space for business, for work, and women were taking the opportunity, and the responsibility, I would say, to carry on, protect the family, to be the main breadwinner, to progress in their career. If you look back at the Second World War, from secretary, to manager, and then what happened when, men were coming back home. So it was like internal, tension between going back to be a housewife and to leave the space, or to become, an assistant again for men. And I think this tension will come back. No women went really back to the starting point, so you cannot change history. But then On the negative side, what you are saying is the same thing. Men are changing the weapons and this terrible experience and this masculinity.
Aggression, of course. They
needed to
run up.
That's a war. You cannot, I mean, I cannot imagine something different. So I think that the experience of your families and your society will be certainly affected after the victory by this experience. And this is why it's extremely important, I believe, to address the issue now, to provide the right psychological support, to understand it in an holistic way. And this is what I said, when we need to look at the whole perspective together. It's not only the men, but it's, going there or women staying home, is how men and women and family will be affected. What kind of society will you have after such intense and difficult experience? So it's important to be aware right now and to develop the projects and to anticipate them. There is no need to wait until the war is over. There are opportunities now to already think in this way, and having women's perspective and hearing their voices already now. I mean, you exactly what you're doing now, telling me your feeling, how you see your husband changing, and that's exactly, I think, what is needed to be understood, to develop the right project that can support your family in this case, but many others in the same situation.
Yeah, women should use their voice right now. Yes, not only in changes like in politics and all these laws, but in talking a lot about that.
You are brave in doing this because you have the space, but then you're using your voice also to share something personal, and you're leading by example. Because what many other women most probably don't find the courage to do the same. And I think that is a very positive and important message.
Thank you. We both do what we can and what for we have strengths. Thank you so much for coming. And
thank you, Maria.
For finding time for this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.